Although everyone that gets into the cage is known as a fighter, I don't class everyone as a fighter's fighter. There's different types and we're going to go into them today. So first off, the 3 types of fighters are: number 1, an athlete; number 2, a martial artist; and number 3, a fighter, a fighter's fighter. You can be one of these, you can be mixed between the 3, but it is dependent on each individual. And depending on what a fighter is, if they're an athlete, a martial artist, or a fighter, is dependent how I'm going to plan my game plan for a certain fight. So let's go into these in a bit more detail. Number 1, an athlete. This is someone I call athletically gifted. They're probably going to have a lot of power, they're going to be fast, and they're going to have strength. And normally they are going to look the part as well. People will call them a freak of nature, or they will be in very good shape. Most likely they have done another sport beforehand. If they're an athlete, they're probably going to be doing sport their whole life. They've just fallen into MMA as the sport they currently do. An example that I would kind of link this sort of fighter to an athlete is AJ, Anthony Joshua. He is in tremendous shape. He's got the abs, he's got the legs, he's got the chest, he's got the look of being that bodybuilder type, but also an athlete. If you are fighting an athlete, my recommendation would be to fight like a martial artist, which is the next one. A martial artist, they love learning new technique, they love the systems of getting new belts, the systems of going with younger generation and going up. They love learning. That's the whole point of a martial artist. They love new techniques. They will sit on a mat for hours and hours, and they're the type of people that will go to seminars of jiu-jitsu, seminars of wrestling, just because they love bombarding their brain with new technique. They are most likely going to study footage as well, because when you study footage, you can get new techniques and learn it and implement it into your game. They're going to do that as well as studying styles. And you can kind of call them, if you want to, the geeks of MMA. They are the geekiest type of people because they love to study and they just love the sport as a whole. And an example that I say is GSP. GSP loved learning new technique. That is why he went to Danaher, John Danaher, to get the finer details of the grappling techniques. You can see in the background here, this is me getting my belt system, or getting my belt within Jiu-Jitsu. And if you want to beat a martial artist, I'd recommend being a fighter's fighter. A fighter's fighter, they love a scrap. They love it when they get in the trenches, and when it gets hard, they will not quit. They will never ever quit. So if you see someone getting in scraps every single fight, and I mean the brutalist of fights, they've got that dog in them, they're probably going to get cut every single fight, but when it gets tough, that's where they shine, that's where they excel. When it is at the start of a fight, they don't excel as much. They love it in the later rounds, and they love it when it gets tough. And if you want to beat a fighter's fighter, I recommend either being a martial artist and being technical and being on the outer range using your footwork, or being an athlete in the, I'm going to say, the first round only, because when you get into the later stages, that is where a fighter's fighter is going to shine. So you can either be an athlete in the first round and put the power on them, or be a martial artist and keep your distance and keep your range. That is why I think it is very important to know what sort of fighter you are fighting. Are they an athlete? Are they a martial artist? Or are they a fighter? Do they love a scrap? And by that, you can kind of schedule out a plan for your training camp to make sure you're not meeting fire with fire. Because ideally, if you are fighting a fighter's fighter, you want to make it as easy as possible. So your route would be either one of these two. Yes, you could try and meet them head on, but it's going to make it a little bit of a harder task. It's like when they say if someone's boxing, you kick them. If someone's kicking, you box them. You're going to do the opposite to get the upper hand. But that is how I work out my camps, because we're built different round these ends, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bish, bash, bosh, pow!